Hello, and welcome to the AT&T Super League of Sweetness Week 4 video recap. It's me, your commissioner, Super Keith, and of course in these videos we'll go over games that happen, matchups, team stats, upcoming matchups, and some other information. So let's get into it, shall we? As you can see, this background, big explosion, is because a lot of these games were pretty much out of hand or not even close to being close matchups on here. So we get the explosion. That's our background for it today. But as far as the games, let's go see those. My team, of course, McGiblet's Funhouse, taking on Dub. At kickoff, I was the underdog by 5 points. And at the end of it all, I lost by a lot more than that. 85 to 139. For a 54-point win or loss difference, we'll call it. And that gets a pair of awards there. First, we'll give Dub his High Score of the Week award. It was definitely 139 points, hands down above anybody else. I think the next closest one was 120, so definitely the highest score of the week in there. And unfortunately, it happened against me, and it was also the biggest win difference of anybody, 54 points. The next game was almost as close, but this was the biggest win difference. He put a whooping on me. As a matter of fact, Michael's team, Dub, had half the players hit projection. Running back Jordan Howard, 29.5 points, almost beat his projection by 5 times the amount. It was crazy. Running back Gallman put up almost 22 points, double his projection. There were almost 32 points left on the bench. He beat me by 54 points, and he had almost 32 left on the bench between a quarterback and 2 wide receivers. So Dub's team just was hitting on all cylinders today. I only had 3 of my players hit projection. Quarterback Carson Wentz had almost 26 points, just beating his projection. The Chicago defense put up 17 points, almost 7 points over their projection. I did have a tight end on my bench. It would have net me an additional 9 points, but nowhere near enough for the 54 that I lost by. So the next game we'll get into is Liz's Captain Rocks taking on Eric's 100 yards and running. At kickoff, Liz's team was projected to get the win, and at the end of it all, she did get that win, 125 to 72 for almost a 53-point win difference. Liz's team had half of her players hit projection. Running back Christian McCaffrey, almost 24 points, beat his projection by almost 8. Running back Eckler put up 24 points, beating his projection by 9. There were just under 5 points left on the bench between a running back and a wide receiver. Now, as far as Eric's team, he only had 4 of his players hit projection, but the Dallas defense put up almost 11 points, beating their projection by 3, and his kicker, Mason Crosby, beat his projection, putting up 9 points, just hitting that projection. There was a quarterback and 3 running backs on the bench, which would have net an additional 14 points, but nowhere enough for that win. Going on to the third game was Adrian's Blue Nightmare taking on Sheldon's team, Big Shell's team. At kickoff, Blue Nightmare is projected to get the win by 5, and it was a little more than that. 21 points, 100 to 79 on that. Now, he got the win despite only having 3 players hit projection. Quarterback Jared Goff, almost 34 points, beating projection by 9. Wide receiver Mike Evans, almost 16 points, beating his projection by just under 5 points. There was almost 13 points left on the bench from a different defense he could have started, but he still got that win. Now, Sheldon's team, they collapsed. They only had 1 player hit projection. Running back Derrick Henry, almost 12 points, just hitting his projection. There was a tight end, running back, and a wide receiver on his bench, which would have net an additional 19 points, but not enough for a win. Going on to our fourth game was Jaquan Space Monkey taking on Chuck's team. At kickoff, the Space Monkeys were projected to get the win by 4, ended up being by 27 for a score of 123 to 96. He had 6 of his 10 players hit projection. The New England defense was killing it, almost 26 points, doubling their projection. Running back LaShawn McCoy, 15 points, beating projection by 4. There was a wide receiver on the bench, which would have net an additional 18 points, but it wasn't needed in that big win. Now, Chuck's team only had 2 people hit projection. Running back Leonard Fournette had a heck of a game, 28.5 points, doubling his projection. Running back David Johnson, almost 14 points. Now, Chuck left a whole bunch of points on the bench between a tight end, a defense, a quarterback, and a wide receiver. Almost 35 points on that bench, and if you're paying attention, that 35 points is more than they lost by, so he gets himself the Salty Loss Award right there. As you can see it, right there. Yeah. 35 points off the bench, lost by 27. Chuck's team looks like it wasn't quite managed this week, so let's keep an eye on that. Make sure he's managing his team and moving through on there. But yeah, they could have had the win, just some different management on that. Going on to our next game was Kim Possible taking on Rob's Kardashians. At kickoff, Kim's team was projected to get that win by 115 to 93 for a 22-point win difference. And at the end of it all, it was pretty close to that, 101 to 80. Both teams coming under their projection, but the amount was pretty close. It was a 21-point win difference. Kim had 4 of her players hit projection. The quarterback, Lamar Jackson, almost 35 points, beating projection by 7. Wide receiver, Devontae Adams, he put up 20 points, beating his projection by 7. Kim left 45 points on the bench between a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a tight end. That would have been really a staggering amount of points on that there. It would have been 146 points, and that would have been the high score of the week. Now, Rob did have 4 players hit projection. Wide receiver Robert Woods, 18 points, doubling his projection. And wide receiver Chris Davis, 15 points, doubling his projection. Now, the good thing for Rob is, despite the loss, he did have a perfect lineup. So we'll throw that award up there. There you go. 2 thumbs up. That's what you get. Too bad, there's no more moves in your bench, which could have got you more points, but it just wasn't enough to get that win. And going into our last matchup, of course, Mama and her boy taking on Mary's team. At the kickoff, Mama and her boy's team was projected to get the win by 27 points. Ended up being by 44, 120 to 76. Jody's team had 4 players hit projection, but running back Nick Chubb put up almost 39. He did put up 39 points, almost tripling his projection. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers, almost 34 points, beating projection by 4. Only a defense and wide receiver on the bench would have net an additional 12.5 points, but that's a pretty staggering win of 44 points. Mary had also only 4 players hit projection, but running back James Conner, 18.5 points, beat projection by 6, and wide receiver Stephon Diggs, almost 10 points, beating projection by only 2. Just under 1 point left on the bench for Mary from a running back, so almost a perfect lineup on that there. So that does it for our game matchups on that there, and the player stats. So let's go into what's coming up. Of course, we had our first week of buys. Now this week, the buys come up with the Detroit Lions. So that means no Matt Prater, no Matt Stafford, no Kenny Galladay, no T.J. Hawkinson, no Kerryon Johnson. So there's a lot of offensive, players that might start on the Lions that could get you some points that are going to be on bye this week. And the other team on bye is Miami. Yeah, Miami. So going into team matchups this week, we have my team at 2-2 taking on Giblets Funhouse, taking on the 4-0 undefeated Space Monkeys. So I got my hands full. The next game is the 1-3 100 yards and running, taking on the 4-0 Doug. The next game is Adrian's 2-2 Blue Nightmare, taking on the 2-2 Captain Rocks. And in my matchup of the week, the 0-4 Mary's team taking on the 0-4 Rob's Kardashians. So one of those winless teams are going to walk away with a win. It's possible they can tie, but more likely one of them's going to walk away with a win. And then our last game is a 2-2 Mama and her boy and take on a 3-1 Big Shells team. Now, as far as actual games coming up, they start on Thursday, of course. We got another good Thursday matchup. The Seattle Seahawks taking on the LA Rams tomorrow. So that's definitely a good game to watch. Check it out. The Monday night game, again, not as good. The 49ers taking on the Cleveland Browns. So I see it's a Wednesday, so the first batch of waiver wires and some moves and drops has gone through. So definitely continue to manage your teams. Fill those spots from the bye weeks. Propose some trades. Make your teams better. And good luck to you guys. I'll catch you later.